All right. Whether you're marriage material or not, you did manage to go down the aisle another couple of times.
I did.
You seem to like weddings, regardless of whether or not they ended up being long-standing.
Well, I'm not sure if you're even aware of this, but my second wedding, the one to Barbara, ended up as an absolute disaster on the wedding day.
Well, I remember you had a helicopter.
Oh, that's the least of the.
I remember I was hoping to get a ride, and you said no, you don't get a ride.
Well, that's the least of the disaster. What happened on the wedding day was about 6 or 8 months earlier, I met a girl.
Oh.
I was running Mary Minstrel in Mississippi, and I had an ad for performers, and this young girl comes over. I was probably 30 at the time, and I think she was 20, and she comes over, and one thing led to another. And Barbara was living in New Orleans at the time. I was in Mississippi by myself. Delary had moved to Baton Rouge,
Right.
and
you were desirous of companionship.
yeah, and so we started a relationship. But we started a relationship with her knowing and understanding that I was getting married in 6 months, and this was only a temporary thing. Because one by one, I started getting rid of all the girlfriends I had at the time, because I realized that I was feeling something special with Barbara that I wasn't feeling with anybody else. So it had become just me and Barbara until this girl came along. And
She showed up the day of the wedding?
No.
Okay.
You're jumping ahead.
All right, okay, sorry.
6 months earlier, this girl comes along, and so we started a relationship. But we started a relationship with her knowing full well that I was getting married in 6 months, and this would have to end before the wedding. And about 6 or 8 weeks before the wedding, I ended it. And she was not happy about it. She said, "Why can't you be marrying me?" And I said, no, this is not the way this was supposed to go down.
Right.
We were fully aware on the process she had fallen in love with me. And she left the picture, so I thought. And she didn't leave happily, but she left. Now let's fast forward to wedding day. And it's a beautiful wedding. It's out in the country. All the family, the friends are there. The helicopter.
This is the first time I think most of the family got to see your log cabin house.
Possibly so.
Because it had been in process of being prepared, etc. So,
and we made it through the ceremony fine. We were married. We made it through the ceremony. And then sometime during the reception, my best man came up to me and he said, "We got a problem." And he said, "Actually,
you've got a problem."
Got a problem. He said that the girl, the last girlfriend,
Right.
was there at the wedding. And she wasn't there to wish us well.
Right.
She was there very drunk.
I was about to say
and she was there talking to anybody who would listen to her, telling them that she and I had been together as recently as 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, and I should be marrying her. That this was a big mistake. Well, suffice to say that my marriage ended on my wedding day. This was like Jerry Springer.
I have no idea that the
right. A lot of people had no idea this was going on.
I knew you got separated pretty quick afterwards, but
well, not exactly.
When you went up in the helicopter with Barbara, was she pissed off at you?
I don't know that I don't remember at what point during the day that the girl showed up.
Yeah.
All I know is that when she did show up, all I could tell my best man was, "Get her out of here. Escort her off the property as quickly as possible." The damage had already been done. She had mouthed off to as many people as she could. The word had gotten to Barbara. It was a mess. And without making a big, long ordeal about this, just suffice to say that for all practical purposes, my marriage ended on the wedding day.
But it seemed to me
We stayed together
yeah.
for 2 more years.
I was going to say, it seemed you were
But
together
every single day I had to hear
She
about it.
reminded you.
Every day.
Yeah.
And finally I just had to say to her, either let it go or let me go.
Right.
Because I can't live like this.
She was holding it over your head.
Every day.
Yeah.
And so,
by the same token, if she really worked, look, back in the old days, and I'm not going to mention, which of the relatives, etc., put up with the notorious Smith members, but the Smith men were not necessarily the most fideli, they were not necessarily the most loyal of husbands. They, a lot of times they had their little dalliances, and I mean I can go back all the way to Big Zadie. He had girlfriends, etc. So your great grandfather, my great grandfather, was not exempt from that.
Right.
So
then, like I say, Barbara was the right woman at the wrong time. I blame myself 100% for the failure.
But where do you think the problem was with her in terms of her not being able to understand?
Well, that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't happen during our marriage. It happened before the marriage, but. A trust was broken, and I understand that, and she couldn't move on, and she may have tried, but she couldn't, so I had to divorce her.
What can you say about the divorce with her? I mean, how did that work out?
It was pretty simple. We both used the same lawyer, and it was a done deal. There was no drama there, and then it wasn't too long after that Kalila came along.
Well, we'll get to that because she wasn't Kalila at the time, right?
It was Catherine.
She was Catherine. I have to kind of like figure that you were not ready to rush into another marriage at that time. When was?
No, we didn't get married.
I think you got married once every decade for the first
I did. I got
4 decades.
Once in the 70s,
once in the
once in the 80s,
yeah.
once in the 90s.
Yeah.
And once in the 2000s. But
in the wedding that we had in the 90s, that was to Catherine, and I do remember it was at what we call Teddy's Corner for the theater people, which was part of Le Petit Theater.
We had it at Le Petit,
and I remember that you were brought out in a coffin that you took the lid off of. You basically said, I'm Sidney Smith and you're not, kind of a thing like from Saturday Night Live. And then there was pink smoke in the back that filled up. And then Catherine came out in a vampire kind of costume.
Well, I wasn't about to get married again without turning it into a media.
Yeah, well, I remember Molly Penner, bless her soul. She was sitting next to me, and I don't think her voice had gone at that point, but she was like, it was amazing. It's just like, you knocked a lot of people's
I tried to do that on a regular
socks
basis.
off in this. Yeah.
The Times-Picayune covered it and said, Ghost King marries vampire queen.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But again, the officiant, the person who performed the ceremony, was your therapist or something?
I believe so. Yeah. I forgot that.
And you drank blood from a chalice.
Well, I don't know if I drank blood.
Well, I mean, it was stage blood probably, but I mean, the idea was that
you remember the wedding better than I do.
Well, that's because I probably was not doing too much of the extracurricular stuff at that time.
Right.
But no, I mean, it was an event, and it was. Look, every one of your weddings was different. One was like a traditional ceremony. One was this log cabin thing with the helicopter, etc. And out in the country. Then there was the one, and the fourth was a pirate wedding. We'll get into that later. I'm not going to talk about that one, but I mean, each one was different. Each one was spectacular in its own way. And I think that the fact is I kind of think you enjoy the weddings. I mean, I'm not sure that you enjoy the marriages as much as you enjoy the weddings and planning the weddings, etc. Because it's part of the. I think your persona is somewhat like mine at times. Nothing as good producing as overproducing, right? So I have to admire that you put that much forethought into it that came out so well. So where along the lines did you meet Catherine? I mean, were you doing haunted history at that point, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when was it that you came up with the idea for haunted history? Because I remember you came to me one time.
Well, I had just moved back from Mississippi. I was broke. I was bankrupt. I had lost my land, my house, my car, my wife, and I was pretty much down. So once again, I was looking in the Times-Picayune every day, and I saw this ad for timeshare salespeople.
Oh, that's right, you were doing
and
that.
I soon found myself standing on street corners in the French Quarter, hawking timeshare. And apparently I was so good at it that the owners of the resort hired me to be the manager. So I was the manager of a timeshare program, and I started making money again to get myself back on my feet. And while I was standing there in the French Quarter at night, I'd see so many tourists walking around with tour groups and things. And I thought, I can't be a 75-year-old stripper, because I was still doing haunted history occasionally, but not.
You mean you're talking about Mary Minstrel?
Yeah, I was still doing Merry Minstrel occasionally, but not making big money, just, spending money type thing. I thought, I can't be a 75-year-old stripper, but I can be a 75-year-old tour guide.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about different things, and before long I came up with the idea of haunted history tours. And started that.
I remember that what I was getting ready to say a little while ago was that, you said, what do you think about this idea about haunted history tours and stuff? And I said, it sounds right. And you said, well, I'm going to go to all the different concierges and put the little pamphlets out. And that's kind of the way you built it up, was it?
Absolutely. I totally built it up myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I visited concierges, just like I did in Baton Rouge.
I'm assuming that you had to kind of grease a few palms for the concierges at times.
Absolutely, yeah. To grease the palms.
So,
sure, yeah.
So how did that? I mean, how did that work? You walk in, hey, I'm Sidney Smith. I have this haunted history tours. I'd like to, treat you to a dinner or something. How would that work?
No, you give them graft.
Yeah.
For selling your tours.
Okay, well, you give them the graft in advance, or you give them?
No.
You tell them, hey, if you sell me this, I'll give you a couple of bucks on the side.
Yeah.
So. Was it different for each different concierge? Were there
No,
there was some that was saying, well, I understand that, but it's going to have to be
I wasn't charging that much where I could grease a palm that much. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, we did well, and we created our own competition. Bottom feeders, competitors.
Well, yeah. I mean, so how many people that you trained decided to go out on their own?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And they always think the grass is greener.
Sure.
And they always think they can do a better mousetrap. But the fact of the matter is, they don't see what's going on behind the scenes. They only see the money coming in. They don't see the money going out.
Right. Well, unfortunately, it becomes a very obsessive thing too. I mean, I know how hands-on you are.
Yeah.
And the phone rings. Somebody has a problem. You
right.
take it. I mean, it becomes a very much a part of your life. I mean, I remember. You'd be downtown. Meeting tour groups at 10:30 at night. You'd be
Sure.
knocking off finally.
Yeah.
So it was a long day.
I don't hardly ever go down anymore now.
No, but at one point you had to, like you said, or else they would steal you blind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And dealing with a lot of those people, I mean.
Yeah. Nowadays it's cashless, so it's hard for somebody to steal really, but because everything is being purchased online or before they get to town, or credit cards, whatever.
Well, yeah, but if they're supposed to, have like 26 or 28 people in the group, and they got 24, and somebody comes at the last minute, can we do it? You're not going to know if there's had 24 or whatever. They put the money in the pocket. So.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, we're not taking any credit cards tonight. We're only taking cash. Thank you very much. But I guess they take a chance that you find out about it too.
Sure.
But by the same token, as you said, now it's with the credit cards. And did you build your own website kind of situation, or did you go through a company to
We
run
went
it for you?
through a company. Khalil is a lot more savvy about that than I am, and she has a bigger part in that. But we went through a company.
Yeah. So, but largely when you started, it was mostly a cash I mean, I would say probably up to Katrina, and I don't want to go into the Katrina story because, you know, that's been said a lot, and we will have a whole episode of that as well because of that and the play that was written about it. But I'd like to just take a step back a little bit about Catherine. How did you meet Catherine in terms of you know, when you first got to know her?
I hired her to she was a belly dancer at the time, and I hired her to come out to do a show, and one thing led to another, and we ended up in a relationship.
Now, of course, she had a daughter at that time.
She had a daughter, a Down syndrome daughter named Stephanie, who took to me very closely, and I took to her, and when we ended up getting married, I adopted Stephanie as my own.
And now Justin is how old at this point?
Probably early teens.
Okay. And he went to school where?
He went to school in Mandeville. Well, he went to school primarily over in Mandeville.
And he was with Delary?
Yeah. I had agreed to let him go to school with her, but then when he was about, I don't know, 13 or so, he came to live with me on his own and had chosen to live with me, and I put him in McMain. And then that's when a lot of bad custody stuff started happening at that time. You know, we got into some fights.
Right.
And so he didn't stay in McMain long.
And then he moved back to Mandeville.
Yeah, and then, but prior to that even, we went through major custody disputes where he ended up in St. Andrew's Episcopal School here on Carrollton.
On Carrollton, yeah. That was where my Boy Scout troop was.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly the judge, Delary wanted to put him in holy name of Jesus, and the judge said, you know what, I went to Catholic schools, I wouldn't send my own kids to Catholic schools, much less a Jewish kid. So we settled on St. Andrew's.
So did Justin, that brings up a good question, did Justin ever really self-identify as Jewish? He didn't, did he have a bar mitzvah? I don't remember him having a bar mitzvah.
He was confirmed, he didn't have a bar mitzvah. But yeah, he definitely identified as being Jewish. He went to Israel with the kids at Touro Synagogue.
Birthright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, you know what?
He was, you know, he was proud of being Jewish. He just didn't know all the. He knew more Hebrew than I did. I'll tell you that. You know?
Okay. Well.
So he was probably more Jewish than I am. Yeah.
Well, that's another story. I mean, I don't think we have to show our Jewish credentials tonight, you know. But by the same token, you know, I never really sat down with him and talked about his being Jewish in any way.
Right.
And I don't know that even David, my son, ever, you know, sat down with Justin. But he's a free spirit, really, you know, lovable child. You know, and I always enjoyed his company. At times. Later on, you know, it was sometimes tough to be around him, as you know, because he was sometimes a little bit too much, you know, in your face. And Justin, calm down, it's okay, you know. But I kind of ascribe that to a little bit of him, you know, being you and being animated, etc. And we'll get to more about that as well. But okay, so get back to Catherine, Stephanie, you, Catherine, and occasionally Justin would be living together.
Yeah. We were living together.
And so was that at the house now on Fontainebleau, or?
It was the house on Fontainebleau.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you buy the house on Fontainebleau? Do you remember offhand?
In '97. I think 1997.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we and Kathy and I are.
I mean, it came with the pool and everything?
Oh no.
No, you didn't. No. Okay.
It came with nothing. It was a shell of a house. I put a lot of money into that house. Balconies in the front, balconies in the back, the pool in the back, landscaping. The whole inside is different. You know, I mean, it was nothing compared to what it looks like today.
Yeah.
So no, I turned it into quite a little palace.
Well. And again, I think most of the people with the parties, etc., knew about you and the parties, etc., and knowing, you know, 97 Pompano, came to become sort of a mantra, you know. When was the first time, and we're going to close out right now, but when was the first time you had a major party here? I'm trying to
The
remember.
house, probably my 60th.
Birthday?
That was when I had half the party on the boat, and the other half was here at the house. But I've been having parties, for years, back to Mississippi days, big parties.
Yeah.
I like giving big parties. I like just doing it as a social experiment to bring all kinds of people together. Democrats, Republicans, hippies, lawyers, just create a gumbo of personalities and see how everybody gets along.
Well, it's always been.
And with the exception of that wedding drama, everybody gets along very well.
Yeah, and it's always been, a big highlight of the year for a lot of people. I mean, I know that the Christmas parties you had and your birthday parties all top notch. I mean, and I'd be hard pressed to think of anybody who's had as many really successful parties.
I'm having one in September. I'm having a makeup party in September. And it's going to be billed as the first annual It Ain't Over Till It's Over.